Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Radha Madhava Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Raja Janadana Sodanandana Yasodanandana Raja Janadana Yamunatira Vanachari Ira Vanachari Ira Vanachari Ira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Vihari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. So we are picking up at Canto 10, Chapter 45, Text 24. And it's 4 verses, so I'll just run through the Sanskrit and translations real quick, and then we could do call and response for the final verse, number 28. Let me share my screen before I forget. It is. Okay. Yes. Evam san Tvaya Bhagavan Nandam Savrajamachyuta Vasulankara Kup Yadyer Arhayam Asa Saduram. Thus consoling Nanda Maharaj and the other men of Braj, the infallible Supreme Lord respectfully honored them with gifts of clothing, jewelry, household utensils, and so on. Ityuktasto Parishvajya Nanda Pranaya Vifalaha Hurayan Ashubhir Netre Saha Goper Vajam Yayo. Nanda Maharaj was overwhelmed with affection upon hearing Krishna's words, and his eyes brimmed with tears as he embraced the 2 lords. Then he went back to Vraj with the cowherd men. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti has written an extensive purport to this verse, elaborately analyzing this portion of Lord Krishna's pastimes. Just as a man places his valuable gold within fire to reveal its purity, the Lord placed his most beloved devotees, the residents of Vrindavan, in the fire of separation from him in order to manifest their supreme love. This is the essence of Acharya Vishwanath's comments. Atashuda Sito Rajan Putrayo Samakarayat Purodhasa brahmanaischa yathavadvija samskritim. My dear king, then Vasudeva, the son of Shrudasena, arranged for a priest and other brahmanas to perform his two sons' second birth initiation. Tebhyo dad dakshina gavo rukmamala swalankritaha swalankritebhya sampujya savatsaha kshama malini. Vasudeva honored these brahmanas by worshipping them and giving them fine ornaments and well-ornamented cows with their calves. All these cows wore gold necklaces and linen wreaths. And now today's verse, Ya Krishna Rama Janmarkshe. Please repeat.
Ya Krishna Rama Janmarkshe
Manodata Mahamati
Manodata Mahamati
Taschadadad Anusmitya
Taschadadat Anusmritya
Kamsena Dharmato Hritaha
Kamsena Dharmato Hritaha
Yaha, which Krishna Rama of Krishna and Balaram, Janmarkshe on the day of birth, Mana in his mind, Tataha given in charity, Mahamati the magnanimous Vasudev, Ta them, Cha and Adatat he gave, Anusmritya remembering, Kamsena by Kamsa, Adharmataha impiously, Ritaha taken away. Translation. So now we're going back to the very beginning of the 10th canto. The magnanimous Vasudeva then remembered the cows he had mentally given away on the occasion of Krishna's and Balaram's birth. Kamsa had stolen those cows, and Vasudeva now recovered them and gave them away in charity also. Purport. At the time of Krishna's appearance, Vasudeva had been imprisoned by Kamsa, who had stolen all his cows. Still, Vasudeva had been so jubilant at the birth of the Lord that he had mentally donated 10,000 of his cows to the Brahmanas. Now, upon Kamsa's death, Vasudeva took back all his cows from the late king's herd and gave 10,000 of them, according to religious principles, to the worthy Brahmanas. Om Adgyanatimanandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So I really loved this verse. It's funny. I'm reading Krishna book. I just started reading Krishna book, and I remember I just read this particular portion literally yesterday, like before I was preparing for the class, and I noted even then when I was initially reading it this fact that Vasudeva was imprisoned at the time of Krishna's birth. And typically, the idea is when you have a child that's born, then you give a donation to the Brahmanas. And so Vasudeva wanted to follow that tradition, but because he was imprisoned, he couldn't do so. And so what he did was, instead of making an excuse and be like, oh, yeah, no, I wish I could, but I can't, or, let me just stop sharing. Or saying, I'll do it when I get out, and then doesn't end up doing it or something. He said, no, let me go within my heart and let me do it with all of my mental faculties and all of my heart. And the thing about Krishna consciousness is that it's absolute. And so by doing that, then one gets the full benefit of if one does such a thing externally, materially, because we know that the material world is very transitory and ultimately insubstantial. But what's not insubstantial is our heart, is our feeling, is our bhakti that we are able to express at any time, regardless of any circumstance that we may find ourselves in. So I just was like reflecting on myself and thinking like how many times throughout my day of Krishna consciousness do I think like, oh, well, I could do that, I should do that, but unfortunately I can't because of this circumstance or that circumstance. But what if instead of making excuses, I were to actually find a way? And then I reflected on the fact that so many of our great acharyas over the past, they've been put in such dire circumstances, just like Vasudev was. But instead of making an excuse or thinking, oh, I'll do it later or I'll do it when the circumstances are more favorable, they simply found a way. And obviously, the best example of this that we have in modern times is Srila Prabhupada. I mean, the circumstances that he was in when he came to America. First of all, he had multiple heart attacks on the way over. He was an elderly gentleman. He got here, didn't know anybody. I mean, he knew one family in Butler, Pennsylvania, but that was about it. And even they were not entirely welcoming. And then he went to New York, where he was sleeping on cots in the YMCA and scrounging by, avoid not eating sometimes, and in unbearably difficult circumstances. But because he had this love in his heart for Krishna, just like Vasudev did, then his mission was foremost. He knew that he would find a way no matter what it took. And I think this is really the pocket in terms of the Krishna consciousness. I think this is the pocket that we need to live in if we really want to make rapid advancement. And in fact, I would argue that it's these moments, these circumstances that Krishna provides when he wants us to take that next step. And he wants us to go deeper into our relationship with him. I was just reading in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, very early on. He gives this example in regard to this particular principle. And he cites the Bhagavatam 1:13:30, when Dhritarashtra has finally realized his situation and understood that he needs to get serious about spiritual life and stop, making excuses, as was the case. And this beautiful verse comes, but I just love the similes that we see in the Bhagavatam. So many beautiful ones that allow us to really go deeply within the essence of the text. This one really struck me. It said, he, referring to Dhritarashtra, was going to the Himalaya mountains, which are the delight of those who have accepted the staff of the renounced order, like fighters who have accepted a good lashing from the enemy. And I just thought that it's so amazing the nature of the sincere transcendentalist. Again, this element of sincerity. If we have that sincerity, then any circumstances that we come across are opportunities for us to develop our relationship with Krishna. And so someone who's actually sincere like this, they view these circumstances that they might find themselves in as Krishna's loving hand guiding them, pushing them closer and closer to him. And the erosion of their material comforts that Krishna arranges for are the method that Krishna employs for bringing his devotees closer and closer to him. And if you don't believe me, then just read the Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam is just full of these situations. It's one after another, devotees who are put into difficult situations. The whole premise of the Bhagavatam being spoken is because King Parikshit was cursed to die, and he was a great devotee. And so I think it's valuable to have this perspective. And it's not just I think it, but Krishna also mentions it himself in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verse 30, which I have here. Maybe my favorite verse. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra, sarvam cha mai pashyati, tasyaham na pranashyami, sacha me na pranashyati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. I'm just going to read a little of the purport, so I'll share the screen here. It's really good. So again, we're talking about seeing circumstances that we get put in, especially the difficult ones, as Krishna's loving arrangement for us, so we could develop our relationship with him. So it says here, Prabhupada says, a person in Krishna consciousness certainly sees Lord Krishna everywhere, and he sees everything in Krishna. Such a person may appear to see all separate manifestations of the material nature, But in each and every instance, he is conscious of Krishna, knowing that everything is a manifestation of Krishna's energy. Nothing can exist without Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of everything. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the development of love of Krishna, a position transcendental even to material liberation. At this stage of Krishna consciousness, beyond self-realization, the devotee becomes one with Krishna in the sense that Krishna becomes everything for the devotee, and the devotee becomes full in loving Krishna. An intimate relationship between the Lord and the devotee then exists. So that's important, right? That's our whole goal, is to develop this intimate relationship with Krishna. And the way to do that is by practicing this attitude of Tattenu Kampam, Susamikshamano, of viewing everything that happens as Krishna's loving hand in our life, and using all those circumstances as springboards to propel us further into our relationship with Krishna. In that stage, the living entity can never be annihilated, nor is the personality of Godhead ever out of sight of the devotee. To merge in Krishna is spiritual annihilation. A devotee takes no such risk. It is stated in Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santas Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achinta Gunaswarupam Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He is seen in his eternal form of Shama Sundar, situated within the heart of the devotee. So theoretically, we might think like, yeah, it's nice to see Krishna everywhere and to view every circumstance as Krishna's arrangement, but how could we actually do it? Like, right, it's one thing to say it, but then in the moment when you stub your toe, how am I gonna how will I automatically think, oh, this is Krishna, and this is Krishna giving me an opportunity to develop my love for him? So it's explained here that Krishna is always seen; he's seen in every circumstance by the devotee whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. So this is our main business as devotees, as sadhakas, aspiring Krishna conscious devotees, is to develop this love for Krishna. And so it's very important we never lose sight of the goal. And it's even more important that we don't lose sight of those primary activities which help us to develop love for Krishna. And of all of those primary activities, the foremost is hearing about Krishna. And it's also the easiest way to develop love for him. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said, Shunile Karibe Chitte Raginari Dosh, Krishna Gada Preme Habe, Aibe Santosh. That simply hearing about Krishna will free one's heart from all faults of ignorance, and thus one will develop deep love for him. And then it says, Paibe Santosh. This is the path of peace. So it's very important that we develop a regular hearing schedule. At least I've noticed in myself that just the idea of reading regularly, of hearing regularly, unless I put it into a system, unless I systematize it, then it usually fades away, and I wind up starting like with this nice emotion that I want to read and get going a nice reading program, but unless I commit to a program, one that's reasonable for me, then I it could last for a little bit, but then ultimately it fades away. And so it's very important to develop a proper reading program. And to prove this, I'd like to bring another Prabhupada quote into evidence. It's a purport, and I have it handy somewhere. Maybe in my notes. Just check. Oh, here it is. This is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila text, chapter 25, text 278. This is the verse. Men become strong and stout by eating, another nice metaphor here. Men become strong and stout by eating sufficient grains, but the devotee who simply eats ordinary grains but does not taste the transcendental pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna gradually becomes weak and falls down from the transcendental position. Very powerful. We need to hear the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and Krishna, otherwise we gradually become weak and fall down from the transcendental position. However, if one drinks but a drop of the nectar of Krishna's pastimes, his body and mind begin to bloom, and he begins to laugh, sing, and dance. And now the purport. This is like a very shocking purport. To me, at least, it was when I first heard it. And anyway, here it is. All the devotees connected with the Krishna consciousness movement must read all the books that have been translated. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and others. Otherwise, after some time, they will simply eat, sleep, and fall down from their position. Thus, they will miss the opportunity to attain an eternal blissful life, a transcendental pleasure. Again, that is Madhya 25-278. All the devotees connected with the movement must read all the books that have been translated, CC, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and others. Otherwise, after some time, they will simply eat, sleep, and fall down from their position. So, if we bring it back to kind of where we started, the reason why Prabhupada is emphasizing this is because, again, hearing is the most important process. By hearing properly, then we develop this love for Krishna. Krishna himself helps us when we hear properly. Right? Shrinvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridantak stohabhadrani vitunoti suhritsitam. That Krishna, who is seated in the heart of every living entity, who's as the super soul, he cleanses that desire for material enjoyment from the one who has developed this urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So we can't overemphasize the hearing process. And it's also understood that by that cleansing process, by hearing, it's not that we need to separately endeavor to develop love for Krishna. That love for Krishna is already there in the heart. And by hearing, then all the material desires that are clouding the heart gradually get eroded away. And that love for Krishna comes out more and more. And so then we might think, well, I don't really have a taste for hearing so much. How can I develop more of a taste for hearing? And that's answered just a few verses later, where Krishna says that by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, and one develops Vasudev Kata Ruchi. One develops that Ruchi for hearing about Vasudev, hearing the messages of Vasudev. So if we want to develop love for God, let's bring it all the way back. If we want to develop love for Krishna, we need to hear. We need to immerse ourselves in his messages and his pastimes. How do we develop that urge to hear about Krishna? We have to do service. We have to serve those devotees who are completely freed from all vice. And that's why the idea of the principle of the spiritual master is so deeply ingrained into our society. Because by accepting a bona fide spiritual master and serving him with all of our heart, we develop this urge to hear about Krishna. And by hearing about Krishna, we develop love for him. And by developing love for him, then we reach the ultimate goal. We see Krishna everywhere. Premanjana Chardita Bhakti Vilocha. We get eyes anointed with love for Krishna. And then we just live in like a Krishna world where everything that happens to us is Krishna's loving hand. And we're no longer in the material world because we have these eyes that don't see the material world. They only see Krishna world. And we have a taste for service. We have more of a taste for service than for serving ourselves or for sense gratification. And in that state, then we can truly make an impact on the world. And that's where you see someone like Srila Prabhupada, who is empowered to spread the message all over the world, and people like many of our spiritual masters and other devotees within the Krishna conscious movement who have checked out from the program of sense gratification and Maya and are now fully immersed, floating on the waves of devotion, as Donovan would say. There's something Adipurushuru?
Yeah, when we hear these stories, The details in this story is thousands of cows given in charity to the Brahmins, right? Connecting, because of hearing from scripture and hearing from Guru, connecting, well, wait a minute. Okay, Anupam gave a very nice class. We're going to give you a cow, right? So how does it all work, What are you going to do with that cow? And we're reaching into the reservoir of different things we've heard of Vyas Puja's homage to Vaisheshekha Prabhu, and a more recent one, although both of them are from years ago, to His Holiness Radhanath Swami. Someone was glorifying, in both cases, you are worthy of my respect. You are worthy of me giving you donation, right? In this case, cows. Why are you worthy? Because I know that you will use whatever I give you to push on Lord Chaitanya's movement. So these Brahmins were qualified because if they gave them thousands of cows, they didn't just go into the milk business, right? They didn't just have a farm with a bunch of animals walking around. A Brahmin is somebody who knows. If you give a child $10 and he just goes spends it on candy, or you give it a teenager $10 and he spends it on drugs or cigarettes, they're misuse because of their maturity. They don't know what to do with it. So these Brahmins are qualified because you can imagine, okay, somebody gives you, Anupam, 10,000 cows today, right? Today. You would immediately, because of your intelligence in Krishna consciousness, or like Vaisheshekha Prabhu or His Holiness Radhanath Swami, you would say, okay, then we will arrange for the cows to be distributed to those in need so they have some maintenance, or we will arrange for the milk being produced to be processed into foodstuffs that can be distributed as prasadam to people, or we will arrange for the milk to be generating income to build a temple so that the world will benefit, the society will benefit. So the Brahmins receive this charity, and then they have the intelligence, not just accumulating, just eating and sleeping, but they'll have the intelligence to arrange that whatever facility they've been given, they will not just use it for their own indulgence and become fat and lazy and degraded, but they will give back. We collect donations. Of course, our maintenance is there, but we give back to society in the form of temples, in the form of literature, in the form of prasad distribution, in the form of the performing arts or the graphic arts to illustrate the principles of the revealed scripture. So the Brahmins get this charity and they give it back. They're not just like if you eat too much, you'll just get sick. You only need a little bit to eat. So we know how to digest the donation and turn it into preaching, because preaching is the essence of our activity. Somehow or other, whatever we've been given can be used. Krishna will show us how to use it to uplift society and please Krishna. We can say a person will benefit by getting some kind of blessing, but we're not considering our own benefit. We're considering what we did. Will it please the Lord? And Krishna says, no one is more dear to me than one who preaches this message. So whatever we've been given must be transformed into preaching. And that's perfect. Maybe I'm talking too long, but it just, when you just hear, you're living in the Bronx or in Yonkers or in, Boston, and somebody gives you 10,000 cows in charity, you can just take that. But what does that mean? What happens to those cows? What happens to that Brahmin, right? Just a reflection on helping to process the information we're hearing from Scripture in the light of looking a little deeper into the principles behind it and the wisdom and the proper use of it. Okay, go ahead, Prabhupada. Sorry to talk so long.
Yeah. Brahmanas are the head of society. You chop off the head and then it doesn't work. And so they make the whole thing go by that intelligence of how to utilize resources. Otherwise, resources are improperly utilized, and then you see extreme degradation, like we're seeing in society today, where all these incredible amounts of resources are being channeled just into sense gratification and money making. And then you see so much suffering, war and these things, and it just creates this extreme suffering and confusion and depression. So without those brahmanas at the head who know how to utilize things, then get a very scary situation. So thank you, Adipru. I'll just say the last thing is regarding reading. I think that there's like a program for everybody. For me, it's always a constant um, um, process, or it's not the right word, but I'm always figuring out what I feel like I need to hear to be inspired and to placate, any kind of lackings or doubts that may be arising, whatever it might be. And so everybody can, that's the nice thing about having so many nice books that Prabhupada gave us and his disciples gave us, is that we can really find a niche for ourselves. We can formulate a specialized reading program, hearing program that we may personally be inspired by and feel nourished by. And in that way, as we mentioned, develop this love for Krishna and feel very fortified. So that's it for me. We'll take questions, reflections. Looks like Bruce Prabhu is up next.
Done, if it's appropriate for pleasing Krishna, in the mood of broadcasting what we heard. If we hear it but we don't give it, something's wrong. It must be given. Reading, and then what? It must be given. It must be broadcast. I'm sorry to talk too much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you for a beautiful class. I have a question that has been reoccurring, my lack of wisdom and even intelligence. You mentioned in this purport that one drop of nectar will liberate us. And yet, almost it seems like our little lifetime of reading is necessary to not fall. Can you help me understand the wisdom there? Because I don't have the ability to process that in my own way. So I'd rather hear it. Again, this is a reoccurring question.
Yeah, there are different ways to look at it. I think the crux of it is that we may taste some drop of nectar, but it's not that then that nectar will control our mind and control us at all times and prevent us from exercising our free will. That we may have that experience of, wow, this is so beautiful, and really get a glimpse into the beauty of Krishna consciousness, the drop of nectar, as is mentioned. But it could very well be that despite tasting that nectar, then we may still struggle, may go away, or whatever it might be. But the fact is that because we've once tasted it, then no matter where we go or what we do, we'll always be haunted by it like a ghost. This is actually in scripture. That experience will never leave us. It will always be there in the back of our minds, no matter where we go or what we do or how far we stray or whatever it might be. That we'll never forget that, and so that impression will ultimately liberate us because we'll never be able to forget it. And so even if it takes a while, still, because that drop of nectar hit our heart, then it's a guaranteed now that regardless of how long it takes, we will become liberated by it. That's Lord Chaitanya's mercy, that he liberated the whole world, Vishwambhaya, whole universe.
Helpful, very helpful. Thank you.
Ishwari Sundari.
Haribol, and excuse me for not going on camera. I'm actually getting ready to go to work, and that's not a very pretty sight. So forgive me. So this concept of hearing and taking in and learning and then sharing it, for me for a long time has been a little um difficult because I haven't been in the path for a long time, so I don't know it as much as somebody who's really learned. So I've always like been shy to like teach it. Like I couldn't do what you guys do. You guys are a blessing and amazing. But what I did realize is that you could share it by the example that you lead every day. And by doing that, like people start to question and ask about, the path or your faith. And by that, I feel like I have been able to share it without having to be so knowledgeable or talented like you guys are, and to be in front of, a class on Zoom. But yeah, so it's like just live the example, and people are going to notice that you are living this world in a very, lighthearted way, no matter what comes to you. And trust me, I have challenges like a train coming to me head on every day. And I'm still wake up every day very happy. And people notice that. And then they begin to ask questions. And in a way, you're teaching and sharing what you're learning. So I just wanted to share that and maybe inspire somebody today. Haribol.
Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah, the idea that my spiritual master often mentions is that we're meant to distribute the overflow, that we need to be getting that inspiration, that taste, and that experience ourself, and then naturally it overflows into the perception of the people around us, and they can see, oh, there's something's different about this person, and then yeah, naturally they may inquire. And it's good to have a couple of books on hand too. That way, you could just connect them right to the lotus feet, no matter what. Okay.
Thank you,
Bhakti
Anupam
Sangha.
Prabhu. Yeah, bhakti is a two-way street. There has to be intake of nectar, and there has to be an output. An output for some people may mean preaching, and for some other people it may mean example and maybe exchanging with somebody privately. But if somebody's taken in bhakti, then there's no way they cannot share it. Everything they do, every breath they take, basically, if there's a solid intake of bhakti, then what comes out of them is bhakti. Even though they may not know 55 shlokas by heart or get up on the Vyasa-san and preach all the time. Wait, is that Uddhava Sandesh? No? We can't hear you, Prabhu. You're muted.
It's Brihat Mridanga, Prabhu.
Brihat Mridanga. Okay. That was close. That was close. Okay. Brihat Mridanga. Glorify Krishna, please.
Anupam Prabhu, thank you for the amazing class.
Hey, nice to see you.
I wanted to reflect on the second chapter of the first canto.
There's something with the sound that we cannot hear you, Prabhu. You may want to get closer to the mic. You may whisper into the phone.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned the verse about serving devotees brings affinity for hearing about Krishna. And I just wanted to share that I'm seeing this in my life, and it's amazing to watch the science of bhakti work in one's own life. And I appreciate you bringing up that verse because it's a reminder to me that whatever taste I have for hearing about Krishna is due to the mercy of my mentors. And so a practice I've started doing is when I'm reading or chanting and I don't have a taste, then I start to reflect, okay, where am I lacking in my service to my spiritual masters, in quantity or in quality? And also what kind of offenses am I making that is disconnecting me from that flow of mercy coming from my teachers? So just appreciating that verse you brought up, Anupam. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Brihat. So nice to see you. Krishna. Yeah, it's a gardening process, and there's always chance for all kinds of pests and weeds and gophers or whatever eats plants and stuff. And so we're growing the bhakti creeper, and they say the best fertilizer, I believe it is, the best fertilizer is the gardener's shadow. And so through this sincerity, then we need to constantly monitor our service and how we could improve it and where we may be lacking. And by that attention to the bhakti creeper, then it grows safely.
Speaking of fertilizers, Bhima Prabhu has a reflection on that. He has a lot of experience in fertilizing his creeper. Bhima Prabhu, what's going on? What do you have to say? All right, let's not bother him. He's busy. Jeffrey Eckler.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for this class. That comment had me reflecting on Bhagavad Gita 9:22. Those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. And the idea that you could take a personal inventory of what you observe to be what you lack, and then pray to Krishna to carry that part of you. That's beautiful. I love that practice. Thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Nice to see everybody. And my old friend Brihat. Hare Krishna. I'm gonna go get ready for work, but if anybody else has any comments or questions.
Yeah, we're staying on a pump. We'll take care of it. Thank you very much. We'll take care of the love and exchanges. Okay, who wants to exchange love with us? Please jump in, say something. Share bhakti, please. If you can share anything, that there may be some lack of reading, maybe. What, Bhima Prabhu? What are you liking? What is Bhima liking?
Anupam used to call me every day, and we made up a program where he would every week he would memorize a verse, and every day he would tell at least one person that verse. You remember that, Anupam?
He's gone, but I remember that. I remember you told me that.
And he found it very nourishing. There's also a quote from St. Francis where he told his disciples, "Go everywhere, tell everyone, preach to everyone in the world, and if you must, use words." So what that girl was saying about how
Exactly.
quality of consciousness is satisfied due to our faith in Krishna.
I'm not sure if it's just me, but there's some noise interfering with Adipurusha Prabhu's nectarian words. Is that Bhima Prabhu intercepting, hijacking the nectar?
Oh, it might be me. I'm hijacking.
Okay.
I do
Please
that to
hijack.
Adi. Sorry, Krishna.
Yeah, go ahead, Bhima Prabhu. Go ahead.
Could you read the first verse, the English that he read?
Could I read the first verse? I have to pull it
The
up.
English. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's very important to this, what I'm going to read.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, too late. When we come back.
You just have to hold
When we come back. Krishna, you want to get in? Come on.
Okay, Bhima Prabhu, you wanted me to read the first verse? Okay, here it is.
Yes. Yeah.
Thus consoling Nanda Maharaj and the other man of Raja, the infallible Supreme Lord respectfully honored them with gifts of clothing, jewelry, household utensils, and so on.
That was it?
Yeah.
Oh, he said something at the beginning of class that I wanted to respond to. Maybe
You can
next time, Prabhu.
recreate it and respond. Why not?
Well, he mentioned about Krishna withdrawing his love, or not withdrawing his love, withdrawing his presence to increase the love. Yes, do we remember that?
Go ahead with your point. I'll try to pull up the verse.
Okay. Well, it's a little bit off this subject. Let me find it. I was reading actually just this morning. It's a verse from a purport, so to speak, from the Song of Solomon or the Song of Songs, which in the Bible in the Old Testament is a very, very intimate song addressed from the soul to God. And hold on, I'm driving at this time, so this is difficult. But let me read part of the purport here. The chapter is 3:1, and this is just one verse out of 800. But it says, by night, on my bed, I sought him, whom my soul loves. I sought him, but I did not find him. So in the purport, it says, to your dismay, you may discover that the bridegroom, this is how they call Krishna or God in the more intimate aspect of mystical Christianity, the bridegroom does not grant you the favor that you had counted on. Before, he had given you more than you had ever hoped for, but now you are discouraged at his long absence. It is time to seek him inwardly during the night of faith. Nowhere, however, can you find him. Still, you continue to seek him inwardly. This is where he revealed himself to you and gave you the deepest revelation of his character. So We don't often talk about it, though Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita says, from within I reveal myself. So that, of course, we may question, why is it I have no ruchi? Why do I have no lila ruchi? Why do I not hanker to wake first thing in the morning and read of Krishna's pastimes? And we think I have to figure this out, mentally. Why am I not attracted automatically, spontaneous, which is what the goal is? And we always have to understand that this is an inward search, that we will not find our answers from without, and that even in serving the devotees and in doing devotional service, our answers will be revealed from within, that we will re-find that taste of Krishna consciousness when we perform service. And when we read from other scripture and we hear from other devotees from other faiths, it sort of triangulates our faith. It allows us to see that this is the same. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C, meaning the truth is revealed by the logic of referral. I don't mean to get complicated here, but basically it is that the law of love pertains equally, no matter what culture you're in, that this is a search within for Krishna. And that's all I wanted to say. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Yeah, we see through the eyes of Shastra. If there is solid Shastra intake, then we will see Krishna in other people, and all kinds of confirmations will become in our way. If we don't read, it's just a random circus. And I think I found the part of the purport that you were referring to. It says here that just as a man places his valuable gold within fire to reveal its purity, the Lord placed his most beloved devotees, the residents of Vrindavan, in the fire of separation from him, in order to manifest their supreme love. This is the essence of Acharya Vishwanatha's comments. So Krishna has placed Bhima Prabhu in the farm so we can develop this, so to manifest his love, his poetic love for Krishna. He placed Bhima Prabhu in the van. He surrounded him with poop to manifest his love, which he is doing every day in class. Okay. We are wrapping up, dear devotees. Thank you for sticking around. We love you. Amatakishori Didi Hemangi, Bruce Prabhu, Henry Prabhu, Yogeshwari, Dana Krishnas, Radharani, Suzanne, Sharmila, Dana Kaili Das. Yeah, I should chant your names in the meter, in the Vedic meter. Okay, have a wonderful day. See through the eyes of Shastra. Give people love. Sometimes open your mouth and tell them you love them. Okay, Himangi, go to your family, tell them you love them. Okay, Hare Krishna.